Welcome to another Behind the Stand. Tonight we have Miss Shanel Ranzenbach and Miss Alexandra Johnson, both whom are fantastic musicians and good individuals as well. I'm excited for this tonight. This is going to be a lot of fun. So let me first introduce off Shanel. So Shanel, I've known her for a little bit now. I actually know her husband. Oh, and look, and there he is. Hi, Aaron. Welcome. How are you? That's okay. You don't have to talk. We don't need to talk to you. But either way, yes, I've known Shanel for a hot minute here, and I've known her to be a fantastic vocalist, and I'm very excited for her, actually for everybody here to hear her sing later on our new video drop, Love. It's super fantastic. You might even think that it's it's oh, what's her name? Natalie Cole herself. I was going to call you Ella Fitzgerald. I mean, you're just as good, but you know.
I mean, I don't know about that.
Still, it's going to be great. I'm excited for it. And then, of course, we have Miss Alexandra Johnson. She's one of our trumpeters in the ensemble. I've known Alex here for quite some time. Since my grad school days in UMass, you were still finishing up your undergrad and stuff like that. And I just remember you being a fantastic trumpeter then, and you're still a fantastic trumpeter now. So I'm excited for everybody to get a chance to talk to you and get to know you better as well. So welcome.
Awesome. Thank you.
Cool. So let's get right started. So Shanel, tell us a little bit about yourself. What are you doing right now? What are you doing during this pandemic and stuff like that? What's been keeping you busy?
Well, so I live in LA right now, and everything is pretty much still closed. I think outdoor dining just reopened. So it's been a long, almost year. And at first I was working at a school and we were worship leaders at a church. So we were pretty busy throughout the week, but then everything went remote. And so throughout the pandemic, actually, my husband and I decided to start an educational program that's completely virtual. And so like we teach classes and we work with kids all across the country, actually. And it's been keeping us busy, but it's been really fun and rewarding and gives us the opportunity to be creative outside of the confines of like traditional education. But the cool thing is throughout the pandemic, we've been able to like work with an overseas producer and be able to do a lot of recording for our music. Aaron has been able to participate in this virtual big band series. So we've been able to do a lot of fun things and take advantage of the time that we've been on lockdown and where everything has kind of changed. We've been able to make the best of it and do a lot of cool things. So yeah, it's been really exciting.
So real quick, can you tell us a little bit more about that? Your new education venture that you guys started up. Is this something that came out of what you presume to be, or I guess what you saw to be a need in your community and your area? Or is this something that you guys decided to do just because it was like, you know what, this seems like a cool thing. And of course, we're stuck here at home. Why not just go ahead and venture into that?
Right. You know what? It's a little bit of both. I had been wanting to start a nonprofit myself, and it turns out starting a nonprofit when you know nothing about it is more difficult than you might think. So,
Welcome to my world.
right. So we decided to just start with this. And so it's an educational program online. We teach private lessons for pretty much any instrument. We teach a bunch of online classes like art and history and Mandarin and music. So a bunch of fun stuff. Aaron's last semester course was like on medieval history, and this semester is on jazz, so it's pretty fun. And then we also have like a full program for like homeschool assistance where parents can get their homeschool program through us. So it's worked really well. Like I said, I had wanted to base it more on a nonprofit side of things, but I think this is a really great place to start because it allows me to get the experience. We're able to meet the needs of the modern community. There's a lot of kids that haven't been able to get arts and music classes, that type of thing, because, you know, it's the pandemic and a lot of things have been canceled. And so we've been able to step up and fill that need, which is great. And parents really like it, which is really awesome. And we're able to foster that community with the families and give kids a format where instead of it's like 30 kids in a class, there's like 5. And they get to participate and have fun and ask questions. So it kind of meets a need. And I think it's setting us up for the future where we can grow and continue to continue to grow and continue to meet needs for the community. So I'm
Yeah,
optimistic.
right on. No, that's really cool. That's definitely admirable. Because I mean, I know for myself, I work with the Salvation Army Croc Center here in Philadelphia, and a lot of what I do is nonprofit with them. I write a lot of the music for the kids, and I work with the community big band, Philly Croc Jazz Orchestra, and it for me it feels like I'm still able to do what I've been set here to do, which is educate, perform, and write, and all this other stuff, and tell really bad jokes, which you'll all laugh at. See, look at that. There it is.
Look at that.
Good job. Checks in the mail. But it also helps give me a chance to give back to a community that I know desperately needs this kind of nurture and stuff like that. So that's great to hear that you guys are doing that out on the West Coast. That's exciting to hear. So let's jump over to you, Alex. So I know I've known you for a long time, and I know you're going to school for music education as well as trumpet performance up at UMass. And we kind of lost track a little bit here and there over the years, but then have started to kind of reconnect and stuff like that. So I know you're in New York right now. So what are you currently up to? What's going on in your world?
So I am in the National Guard in New York. I moved here 4 years ago from Boston. When I was in Boston, I was doing a lot of just working in community orchestras and doing a lot of orchestral work, as well as like community music theaters and teaching. And so when I moved to New York, I really wanted to focus on getting my master's in jazz and like really working on myself as a performer, and kind of just changing my my path from orchestral to jazz, which is very difficult. But
I can definitely remember that same kind of a thing myself when I was a little bit younger.
yeah, so it's definitely it's been very eventful. Like I was a full-time freelancer before this pandemic happened. And I originally came here to attend NYU and attended there for a year. And I was teaching undergrad students trumpet and piano. So that was amazing to just get that experience. But it was just too much. Like the workload was crazy, and I wasn't getting the education that I was expecting from NYU. So I actually left there after a year. And then I was like, all right, what am I going to do? Like, I need to pay for my student loans. I need to, and I want to like pursue my career. I want to, do a bunch of things. So the National Guard, that came up just from a friend. And I actually originally auditioned for the National Guard when I was an undergrad at UMass.
Oh, really?
And didn't get it. So unfortunately. So anyway, this time around I got it, which was great. And I was like, well, I guess I'm doing it, So I went to basic training. I, did the whole Army thing, which was insane. And since then I've been, I'm in the 42nd Infantry Division Band. So we're like a support unit for the 42nd Infantry Division. So we do gigs like throughout New York City and things for a community. And then like over the summer, we go on like a 2-week tour. And our job is basically to tell New York's, different communities what we do and how the National Guard helps New York, and, basically to recruit more people for the Guard, as well as the band. So it's very interesting. I never thought that I would like be in the Army, but I've learned a lot just about myself and, where I live and all that. So anyway, besides that, I'm in the Honor Guard for the National Guard, which
I think you just got that, didn't you?
Yeah, I've been working for them for about a year and a half. And our job is to provide military honors to veterans for veteran funerals. So I play taps, and then we also fold the flag and, give the flag to the family. So it was very difficult during COVID because they put me on full time. And so I was constantly going to funerals, and it was pretty hard to like see, just like witness families going through that.
Yeah.
Because it was a lot of like unforeseen death, basically. typically, you know, a lot of the funerals that we have are just veterans that are, you know, die of old age, and that's that. So anyway, it's been very interesting working for them as well. And besides that, I'm going to Queens College. I'm finishing my master's. I have like one more semester to go. Woohoo.
Nice.
And working on composition, working on writing beats, like hip hop beats, and just playing trumpet, and you know, trying to do that whole freelancing thing.
Yeah, no, I know all about that. I too had some plans that were supposed to happen during COVID or before COVID, but you know what? Here we are. You got to make you know, lemonade out of lemons, I guess is the phrase. I don't know.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
either way, no, that's super cool. That's great. I remember when I was back in Pittsburgh a couple of years ago, I ended up having to lay to rest one of my mentors, and the honor guard coming in and playing taps and then folding everything with the flags and presenting it to his wife. It was just one of those things where it was like I had never experienced it before in person. And then, you know, seeing that, I was like, wow, this is, I can only imagine like how much of a toll it takes on you inside emotionally and stuff like that to do that.
Mhm.
And it hats off to you. That's just amazing, and you're doing an incredible job.
Thank you.
So that's great.
Yes.
But let's jump into some questions here. So I've got a few questions here that I've decided to try and ask you both tonight. So the first one, and this is something that I've been thinking about a lot, given, you know, recent climates of what's been happening in the world and primarily in the States and stuff like that, but focusing on music as it is, you know, the gender imbalance in jazz, but mostly, I guess, music overall, reflects a wider issue that I think runs across the whole music industry. And like I said, in society in general. How are things getting better now for women in music, or at least women in jazz? Like, how do you hope to change things for the better, or how do you think things are getting better right this second? Because I know it's always been one of those things where I've noticed that when I go to a jazz gig or any gig in general, I don't see very many female performers, and I've always wondered why. I know so many fantastic people that can do these things, but I don't ever see them up there, or I don't ever hear about it. But now we're starting to hear more about it, and it's great. It's awesome. I mean, like HER at the Super Bowl, probably the best part of the Super Bowl, in my opinion. The Steelers weren't in it, but, or I guess neither was New England. But but the point being is that she was fantastic. And why have we not had this kind of a thing happen before? So I guess my question again is, how are things getting better now as society continues to grow and mature? And how do you hope for things to change for the better? And this can go to either one of you. I plan on asking this to both of you, but whomever decides to answer first, go for it.
Okay. Well, I can answer a little and then you can go for it, Alex.
Yeah.
I think advocation is one thing that has been changing. In the current climate, people are more outspoken, which is really awesome. I know as a teacher, you know, we talk to our kids all the time in hopes of like encouraging them or inspiring them or having them to step up and speak up for themselves. And I think now we're finally getting to the point where people are advocating for themselves. People are advocating for women who deserve the opportunity to play or to sing or to book these gigs or these shows. And I think that that's really awesome. Like you said, her did an incredible job. And I think seeing that notoriety, I mean, she was singing, she was playing, like she's a rock star already. But I think that seeing it, especially in that light with the NFL, was a really great opportunity to say, like, this is a traditionally male dominated area, and then giving her that opportunity, I think is really cool. And we can continue to build on that. I think you've got to continue to move forward with that momentum so that the women who should be playing and doing all of these amazing things can actually get a chance to do so.
Cool. I mean, yeah. What about you, Alex? What are your thoughts on this?
I mean, I would say, I don't really know what to say. I think what Shanel was saying with just being more outspoken and really, I think women are at this moment are really trying to like prove that like, hey, we're here and we can play just as well as men.
If
But
not better.
yeah, if not better. And I think a lot of it, I mean, I don't know, I as a as a as a freelancer in New York City, I feel like you just have to be one of those go-getters and like really like get out there and be like, okay, this is what this is what I want for a gig. And just, I mean, the music business is all about just networking, constantly networking. And it's a little bit more difficult for women just because, yes, like it's definitely male dominated. And you have to kind of like put yourself out there in any way, shape, or form. Well, not any way, but you know what I mean.
I know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah, and you just have to lead. And so you can't be what's the word? I don't know, questioning things or like, just you just have to really know what you want. I think that's what it really comes down to. And I think really for women, it's a little bit more difficult just because like, like we want to have kids or like if we want to have family or, that other aspect of life. It's definitely, I think, more difficult to say, hey, like I'm a professional musician, I'm a mom, and I'm this and I'm that. It's like,
Oh yeah, for sure.
it's really hard. So I mean, I think that's also another like a piece of the puzzle, at least from my eyes, just because like I'm 32 and it's things that I think about as a musician. And but yeah, I mean, I feel like women are, we're slowly taking over. And I think the more that we talk about it, and the more that we push young, girls or women in general, say, hey, like you can do this. Like you don't have to be a boy and playing the trumpet. You can be a girl to play the trumpet, or to play the trombone or whatever. There's like those stereotypes still that,
of course.
because people come up to me and they say, oh my God, how do you play that trumpet? Like you're so small, or like you're a girl, or
Well, it's funny you said, because like I said, I work with the Croc Center too, and we have a lot of like male male musicians playing different instruments that, given the stereotype, people would be like, why are you playing that? Where in fact, I can tell you right now, there's one young flute player. I'm not going to mention his name because I know he's watching this and I know his teacher's watching this too. I don't want his head to get any bigger than it is. He's good. He's amazing. He's really good, super talented. But at the same time, like you said, you've got these stereotypes going around like, why are you playing this? You shouldn't, that's not like a typical instrument for you. And it's the same thing with girls too. I had a young alto saxophone player when I was teaching at my school, and she was fantastic. I mean, I kid you not, she was playing circles around all the guys and they couldn't figure it out. And I was like, well, here's a hint. It's because she practiced and she likes it. She has a lot of fun with it. Not to say that the boys didn't, but she enjoyed it and she wanted to keep pursuing it and expressing herself. So I think, I think that's true. That
Yeah, I mean,
we need to kind of break that stereotypical mode and talk about it more. So it's kind of, you lead me into the next question I wanted to ask here. So do you both think that women still feel a pressure in the industry to, look and behave a certain way, which is why, beforehand we didn't see as much female musicians through our history, or at least they were there, but we didn't hear about them enough compared to now?
I think the expectation is probably still there.
So
But
then I guess the other thing would be is like, how can we start to challenge that even more and change that in the industry even more? Like it's a hard question to ask because, I think back to a famous TV series that's on right now on Amazon, The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. You have, a female comedian, wasn't heard of during that time period. And yet, lo and behold, she's killing it. She's crushing it. I mean, that was not heard of. And then you see all these stereotypical things happening during that time period, but she is not the stereotypical person. And I'm just thinking, like, how can we continue to, break that mold and say, just be who you are? Like, what kind of advice could you give? Like, how do you guys think we can change this kind of a thing in the industry?
Well, one thing I think is really cool, one of my favorite things that I noticed in that new movie Soul, the Pixar movie that came out, the
Yeah.
musician in the movie was a female saxophonist. And that was like one of the first things I was like, that's so awesome that representation is there. She wasn't playing the traditional role of being the singer with an all male band or something like that. I believe the pianist, I even believe the bass player was also a woman in the movie.
I think so, yeah.
And so I thought that was really cool that the movie decided to fill those roles with women, because there are incredible female musicians, and there have been incredible female musicians, and there will continue to be. So I think that's one thing, like putting that representation there, because now little kids watching that movie, I mean, it's just one example, but little kids watching the movie can say, I want to be like her when I grow up.
Yeah.
Just like something simple like that, I think does leave an impact.
I mean, we hear with our eyes. I mean, concerts. I mean, most people, when they go to a concert, they want to see it. We hear with our eyes. And it's crazy that you say that, because that was actually something I was thinking about as an example too. And you said it. Fun fact, that is an actual female saxophonist playing in the movie. That's Tia Fuller. Fantastic saxophone player. In fact, I think she came and visited UMass a couple of years ago.
Yeah, she's great. She's phenomenal. But yeah, actually, along the same lines, Beyonce, she had like an all-female band, and I think like the more artists that do that, the better, because it just shows women. Like I don't, when I was a kid, I didn't know of any female trumpet players. My dream was like, oh, I want to be like a famous girl trumpet player, like that was my dream. And then, as I've gotten older and I've learned about the history of music, there's plenty of female trumpet players and, back in the day, like that were absolutely phenomenal and actually toured and, did some really legendary things. But no one talks about them. So, and I actually did I wrote a dissertation at NYU about certain female musicians that were specifically jazz musicians. And that was just like mind blowing, because, even today, like some major, like you go to college and did they talk about any of these women? Most likely not. So it's
not in TD Brown's class.
Huh?
I said we didn't talk about it much in TD Brown's class.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, I think educators now, especially female educators, or just in general, I hope and wish that becomes, part of the curriculum moving forward, even in high school or college or, whatever. And, that will, I'm sure that will help promote women to kind of like look up to, oh, wow, like, this person played trumpet, so can I, type deal. So
and that is something that is very important too, because like I think about some of the movies that are coming out too, like Shanel, you mentioned with Soul. I'm thinking about other things that have come out recently, like the one that really comes to mind, I'm sorry, is Black Panther. Like when Chadwick Boseman died, I honestly shed a tear. I was like, this dude was phenomenal. He represented everything that Black Panther stood for in and outside of the film. And when he passed, I was like, man, that's going to leave a void, of course, in the actual cinematic universe, but it's going to leave a void here in the here and now in this world and where we're currently at, because he was a big advocate for many different things. And he showed that you could do this to young Black boys coming up and coming of age. And I think, you're right. The more we have representation, whether it be in the pop realm, in the country realm, or in this case, jazz realm, the more we have this kind of a thing happening, the more we're going to see these musicians pop up and grow. Like, I mean, the one ensemble that comes to mind, especially when you said, Alex, about, you know, female musicians being, you know, potentially better than male musicians. Immediately I thought of the Diva Jazz Orchestra.
Mm.
I mean, whew, I mean, those are some killer players, some killer writers too. And I had never heard of them or heard of a lot of their names until I heard they were coming to Philadelphia. And this was before the pandemic. Then the pandemic happened. And they didn't, I didn't get a chance to see them. But the point being is I didn't realize that this was the thing. And then I start to research and I'm like, oh my gosh, these people are just crazy good, you know? And you're right. I think we need to have that more representation happening.
Mhm. Yeah, they actually, a part of that group, or I think it was like a certain, like maybe 8 of them or something. They actually just released an album, maybe a year ago, close to a year ago. But yeah, I mean, that was like, when I saw that, I was like, wow, that's super dope. Like, I haven't seen an all female band, you know, release an album, and like they're all ridiculous, like Anat Cohen and Ingrid Jensen, and like just ridiculous musicians that are up there. And you know, that kind of goes to show, like, because I've seen some female musicians, they just get their popularity based on looks or based on, you know, whatever. And I think that's super important. Like, I've always been taught by teachers and also by peers and colleagues that, you know, it's not looks. It's like, you have to practice. You have to, you know, I think to a certain degree, women actually have to prove themselves a little bit more to really kind of stand out and be like, no, I'm more than a pretty face, or, you know, I'm more than just a girl up on the stage with a bunch of guys around me.
No, absolutely.
Yeah. So I think that's another factor or topic that's, you know, that's not really talked about a lot, but I think should be talked about. And yeah.
So like, what are you both doing like right now that you're trying to abdicate more for what's happening in the world? Like, you know, like, I know you both have your own things happening in your respective cities and areas. Like, what kind of projects do you have coming up, if any at all? Or what kind of ideas do you have in the back of your mind that's like, you know what, this is something I was working on before the pandemic happened? What's coming up next on the horizon to help kind of push the boundaries a little bit more, or at least break this mold that we've had for forever and a day?
You can go ahead, Shanel, if you want.
Yeah, sure. So one thing that I'm currently doing, but it is something that I want to continue to build on, and I had planned on it earlier in, well, I suppose early last semester, would just be bringing to the forefront and spotlighting really awesome Black musicians. So every Black History Month, when I had my own classroom, like in person, I would, for Black History Month, do an entire wall of Black artists and make a playlist. And then when we had downtime in the classroom and kids were working, I would put the music on in the background and kids would have to guess who on the wall was singing it. By the end of the month, kids would hear the song, they'd say, oh, that's, and you know, they go on the wall and they grab the pointer and say, I know who's singing the song, I know who's playing the song. And I really love that, because I have taught in many different schools in multiple states, and I have never worked with a teacher who really highlights Black History Month, especially with music. And so it's one thing I really love to do. And so I want to continue to build on that with our educational program and do like an entire sector that gives bios and talks about music and really breaks it down about Black artists, male and female. My wall, I try and be pretty even, but one thing that I think I will seek to incorporate is finding more female instrumentalists, as opposed to just, I mean, it's tougher when you look through jazz, you find a lot of Black male instrumentalists, but I will focus on finding more female instrumentalists for that section of my program, I guess.
Yeah, that's awesome. I wish I would have thought of that when I was teaching, because I used to do something similar where we hit a different composer each month, and then we also had instruments that went along with that composer. So I was doing killing two birds with one stone, as it were. Out of curiosity, do you have any like specific like projects that you're working on musically yourself too, or like anything that you and Aaron might have in the works that you're that we should all be on the lookout for? Maybe an upcoming album that you need a certain trumpeter and saxophonist on.
Well, I will keep that in mind. Yeah, actually, throughout the pandemic, actually over the last couple of years, we've been writing, and we took a backseat to performing so that we could record and write a little bit more. And so we have finished a couple of songs. They will be coming out. But I think the one thing that is a challenge, and Alex, you kind of touched on it a little bit, with like the expectation of women doing something specific, or even like the way you look. People always assume when they see me that I sing R&B. They just, that's what they assume. But I think Aaron and I working together at trying to step outside of the confines of one genre is something that we've been trying to do with this current project. So I will have to post on my social, and I can send it to you guys too, the next steps for our project. But a couple of songs are completely finished, and I was surprised. They sound super awesome. But yeah, I think that that's been one challenge that we're really taking head on, is not trying to be restricted by just making an R&B sounding song because I'm supposed to sing R&B. But it's like that's just not what the song turned out to be. And if you know Aaron, like he's really into like blues and rock and roll, and like he's an incredible instrumentalist. And so when we put our two styles together, it just turns into something new. And so yeah, it's coming. It's on its way. It's in the works.
I'm excited for it, and you better keep us posted, because if not, I'm gonna get on Aaron. Hear that, Aaron? That's awesome. That's super cool. Yeah, you're right. Like it's a shame, because I remember hearing you practice classical music too, and you had a good voice then too, and you still do. So I think as instrumentalists, especially, it would seem as a female instrumentalists and musicians in general, that we just need to make sure that we're having people understand we can be eclectic. We don't have to fit one specific mold. And that's good to hear that you are trying to break that and show, look, I can do it all. Ha 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 ha. I can do it all. How about you, Alex? What's going on with you? What are you currently working on aside from finishing up your master's degree? Do you have any specific projects going on that you're excited about? You had mentioned that you were writing now, and I'm kind of interested and looking forward to hearing some of those compositions.
Yeah,
I'm no Professor Holmes, so I can't, sit back in the chair or anything like that.
Well, for jazz related stuff, I've been really working on writing big band charts, working on sextet charts, like really getting out of the box, and just learning how to arrange tunes, and just figuring out harmony, and really like diving into that stuff. And it's still a work in progress. I'm still learning a lot, and trying to hear certain things and whatnot. So right now, like this year is kind of one of my goals, is to come out with like an EP, or at least like a few tracks. I'm not sure. I kind of want them to be like jazz related, but I've also been really working on hip hop beats. So I'm kind of like the opposite of you, Shanel. So, as a white woman, I'm like, but I live in Brooklyn. So I don't know. Anyway, I just recorded, a couple of years ago, but it actually just came out on this album with a drummer. He was leading the whole thing. And it's called breaks and beats or something like that. But
okay.
Yeah, but it's like literally hip hop, like a hip hop groove, and then I played like a melody, and I just soloed over it. So that was kind of like been my stepping stone. And I also, just the people that I live with are rappers and are really into hip hop. So I'm like very much diving into that genre. And I love it because I mostly listen to a lot of R&B and, that kind of genre. So eventually I would love to make an album that's kind of the mix of both. And usually that tends to turn into like smooth jazz or whatever people want to call it. But that's not really my intention. So I'm just at this point right now, I'm just discovering what I like about music and how to write better music, and just kind of going through that journey.
It's funny you say that because a lot of memories are coming back to mind of when I was in grad school. Like I had this idea of like, yeah, I'm gonna go write big band. I'm gonna be like Nestico and John Clayton and all these cats and stuff like that. And then the more I studied with Holmes and Felipe and Tom, it was just one of those things where I was like, you know what, these are good people to admire and study, but trying to find my specific voice took a while. I mean, granted, I feel like by the end of my tenure in grad school, I found it. But it's definitely important that you got to find your voice. You have to find your personality, especially as a young musician. So whenever you become older, you're like, this is who I am, and you can stand right on top of your laurels and be like, this is it. Take it. It's definitely difficult. And I mean, like for myself, I feel like I'm changing a lot of what my writing styles are. I mean, spoilers alert for those that are watching and listening. Next month, you get to hear one of those new ideas that's been wrapping around up inside the old brain. But the point is, you got to push those boundaries. And that's kind of cool that you're trying to, you still want to stay true to jazz. And that's kind of like where you're at. But then you're also in the hip hop range too. Because it kind of reminds me of the Corey Wong interview that he just did with Grace Kelly about genre and stuff like that, and how she's combining hip hop and R&B beats, but still holding true to that bebop fashion and bebop vernacular. And I was like, that's really cool that you're mixing all of these things together, and that's awesome that you're trying to do that too, and you're starting to put it together. So I'm excited to hear what comes out of this. So, so if you could give one message to if you could give one message to the industry on how to better support gender balance, what would it be? I know, hard question. I'd play my piano, but I don't feel like doing it right now.
Wait, can you ask the question one more time?
Yeah. If you could give one message to the industry on how to better support gender balance, what would it be?
I feel like
it's a hard question.
Like give women a chance. I feel like let them come into their own, and it's more about the music than it is like the external.
I agree.
It's more about the music. So just like give her a chance, because she'll probably crush it.
Totally agree. Totally agree. I couldn't tell you how many times I've listened to tunes on the radio, well, when I'm not driving, and close my eyes and then actually listen to what's going on, and then realize, wait a minute, this isn't who I'm thinking it is. And I look it up. Like, for example, Tia Fuller, she studied Kenny Garrett's recordings a lot, and I've heard a couple of her tunes, and I'm like, that's not Kenny. That is not Kenny. And then I see it, I'm like, I knew it wasn't Kenny. And I'm like, man, Tia's just like, can't say the word, but crushing it. But yeah, I agree. Give a chance.
I would definitely say it doesn't matter if you're a female or a male or what you identify as. I think as long as you put that time and that effort, and you love the music and you want to do justice for the music, I think that's all that matters. And I think, sometimes when people look at like me or Shanel and say, oh, you're in the music business as a female, and it's like turns into this like political, almost like a political discussion. And it's like, yeah, but I'm also just a person, like I just want to play music. That's all I want to do, just like you.
For sure.
So I think the more actually that we kind of get away with like identifying who, I think just understanding like, oh yeah, this person is a killing musician, period. not a killing female trumpet player,
That's it.
not a killing female vocalist, just a killing musician, period. You
That's
know?
it. That's it. Right there on the head. That's it.
Yeah.
Hit the nail on the head. I agree wholeheartedly. So we're going to start to wrap things up here a little bit. Just one final thought. Whenever you get a chance, make sure, and this is going out to anybody that's listening or watching, Jordan. Whenever you get a chance, make sure you close your eyes once in a while and just listen to what has to be said, because everyone's got a story, no matter, what you identify as Alex said, your race, your creed, your sex, whatever it is. Close your eyes and listen to the story and let the story speak for itself. It doesn't really matter. But everything that we've talked about tonight, I mean, I'll be honest, this is an interview session I've been looking forward to, but I was also nervous about, because I was like, I don't know how to ask some of these questions, because it's stuff that I've thought about. And I'm like, I don't know how to talk about it. But again, thank you both for being so honest and transparent about what you've been saying about it. It really does mean a lot. And I'm sure for those that are watching and listening and checking this out, they're going to get something out of this. And that's super awesome. And that's really the biggest point, is that we need to continue to push forward, never backwards, always forward. So our final thoughts for the night. As part of what we do here with Accidental Big Band, we always have our people that are in the hot seat promote a charity of their choosing, something that holds close and dear to the heart. So tonight, let's start with you, Shanel. What charity are you promoting? And can you tell us a little bit more about it?
Yeah, so it's actually called Tumaini International. It's based in Kenya. So it's
Can you spell that for us?
Tumaini. I'm gonna look it up while I'm talking about it, just so I spell it correctly. But the thing that I love so much about it is, like, as a little kid, I always wanted to like sponsor a kid. Like, when I grow up, I'm gonna sponsor a kid. Tumaini. Tumaini, Tumaini. It means hope. And so now that I'm an adult, now that I'm all grown up, Aaron and I had the opportunity to sponsor a girl in Kenya. Her name is Faith. She's very beautiful. She's in a frame on our kitchen table. And it's just really awesome. They are an advocate for education. So instead of children who have lost their parents moving to an orphanage, they move in with a family member or a close neighbor, so they can still stay ingrained in their community. And instead of our funding going towards an orphanage, it goes directly to the parents to pay for their schooling, to pay for their health care, so they can still be connected, they can still be part of their family. And so I'm super excited about it. They are actually currently building their girls' school. So it's a school for girls. It's like a high school. It's a boarding school. And so I do know that they are seeking funding for that, especially everything that's going on with COVID right now. Kids still have their national exams to take, but they've been doing classwork from a cell phone. Like, a lot of these kids don't have like computers and like Wi-Fi in their home and all of this stuff. I have literally seen kids just on their cell phone trying to take their classes and write down their schoolwork. And so
Oh my gosh.
everything we've talked about with like women and representation and education in the States applies just as much to kids in other countries. And so this program helps kids in Kenya, and it's making a huge difference. And so you should support them.
That's awesome. We're going to have a link posted on our on the video page whenever it goes live here at 7:30. And then we're also going to be promoting it a little bit when we're talking about you and highlighting you, Shanel, during your week. So stay tuned for that. It's going to be awesome. How about you, Alex? What are you promoting this month?
I am promoting CAMBA Incorporated, which is a nonprofit organization out of New York City. They support all 5 boroughs of New York. And I've only donated a few times, mostly during the holidays. They have huge food drives, especially like for Thanksgiving and Christmas, and Toys for Tots and whatnot. But they also have like multiple programs for education, for housing stability, for medical services, just so many things that you know, I live in East New York, which is like not the nicest of places in Brooklyn. And so I see a lot of homeless and just a lot of people in need. So actually, personally, I really want to do more for my community, and I really want to start like volunteering for like food drives, or, you know, just handing out. Actually, what I really want to do is go tutor for their education programs, because they have for young kids, they have like after school education programs. And it helps prepare them like for college and whatnot, or even just like technical skills that they can learn, you know, and so they can get a job after high school or even during high school. So anyway, they just offer a lot. So I really, yeah, supporting them, and I want to do more for them. So hopefully, you know, that will happen.
Yeah, for sure. You know, another way a lot of us could help support our local communities: canned goods. Canned goods. Having worked with the Salvation Army for as many years as I have, they're always asking for more canned goods. Non-perishable. I should make sure I'm very clear on that for obvious reasons. But that's awesome. You know, these are both great charities to sponsor, both hitting a lot of really good points. And I'm very happy at the fact that I've gotten a chance to talk with you both tonight and really gotten to know you both a little bit more through this interview here, as well as, you know, when I'm asking questions, hey, where are we starting at in this audio recording here? Everything sounds great. No, it's awesome. This is super cool.